Thanks to AI, we will have all the time in the world to read. Reading is dead, and AI killed it. AI, exciting and terrifying, inevitable and overblown, newest tech and older than you think. The only thing that is certain about AI is that we need to pay attention to it. And despite what some people will have you believe, reading is alive, well, and the best place for us to get some sort of understanding about our brave, new-ish AI world. Pygmalion. In this 1912 play, George Bernard Shaw draws from a Greek myth about a sculptor, Pygmalion, who falls in love with a statue-turned-woman, Galatea. As the sculptor of the statue, Pygmalion has shaped Galatea to his exact liking. In Shaw's play, the sculptor is Henry Higgins, and the statue is Eliza Doolittle, and this time she is not formed out of rock, but out of language. Much of our modern debate about AI revolves around language, who it belongs to, what makes it human, and what it means when our creations start taking on a life of their own through linguistic expression. There are so many reasons to read this play. It is one of my all-time favorites, and it's taken on added relevance in the era of ChatGPT. And you might be thinking, what does a play from 1912 have to do with the newest technology ever? Well, the name of the first chatbot ever created was Eliza, as in Eliza Doolittle. And just in case we think we understand everything about the modern world, that chatbot was created in 1967. AI feels new and scary, but the more you look into it, the more you realize that there is nothing new under the sun. Klara and the sun. Tamagotchis, Roombas, Boston Dynamic robots. The lifelike qualities of these electronics, while still very minimal, can push them past a simple toy, tool, or experiment made from a collection of transistors and into the realm of pet, servant, companion. Spend enough time with one and it's hard to not start to see them as something natural with emotion. Oh, hey there, buddy. Thanks for cleaning up. With emotions and, like human qualities. Now, imagine these devices can wield language like ChatGPT. Imagine they can learn about you and adapt to your physical, social, and emotional needs. Imagine they look like a child and they're quickly becoming as ubiquitous as the smartphone. And imagine the lengths humanity would go to compete with them. Klara and the Sun humanizes all of these issues into a narrative that is deep and moving and will stick with you long after you finish reading it. I was so moved by it that I made an entire video on the significance of Ishiguro, in particular, writing a novel about AI. And in the couple of years since, this book only feels more important to read. Exhalation. Ted Chiang is one of the best short story writers writing today, and many of the stories in his excellent collection, Exhalation, are worth mentioning. But I want to pay particular attention to his novella-length short story, The Life Cycle of Software Objects. This story follows a pair of developers creating what's basically the next Pokemon, except they're like digital and live in a computer, so more accurately, it's kind of like the next Digimon. But you get it. The story chronicles how these creatures and the way their owners interact with them changes with advances in technology, market trends, cyber attacks, and the aging of both the owners and the digital creatures. What Chiang does so well is pull out that little bit of guilt from those Pokemon trapped in those save files that you haven't touched for years. And asks, what would happen if these creatures that we already feel some form of attachment to could speak with generative text, could be uploaded into robotic toys that allows them to interact with the physical world, and could grow and develop with us as we age? How great would that sell? And what would we do with them when they stop selling? 12 Bytes. If transistors, AI, machine learning, and all of that stuff is new to your lexicon, then 12 Bytes by Jeanette Winterson is a great place to pick up an easy-to-read text that'll teach you a lot about this stuff. Made up of 12 essays that cover everything from how the British lost their major stake in computer science to how computers became a science to begin with, there's also wonderful biographical examinations on important figures like Ada Lovelace, whose father, Lord Byron, abandoned her when she was a 1-month-old, and was thus steered toward math and science by her mother Annabel. Lovelace grew up to be a pioneer in the field of theoretical computing decades before technology could put her theories into practice. Another essay covers perhaps the most important figure in all of AI and machine learning, Alan Turing. He did invaluable work for the British government as a codebreaker during World War II. He is widely considered the father of artificial intelligence. He's the namesake of the Turing test, perhaps the most important metric in all of AI, and he met a truly heartbreaking end after the horrific punishment he faced in 1952 for his homosexuality. Winterson covers all of this in a way that makes it incredibly accessible, and with a humor that, while not for everyone, will make the book enjoyable and give you plenty of laughs along with the tears, hopes, and fears for the future ahead of us. Do androids dream of electric sheep? Ever since Alan Turing, scientists and engineers have tried their best to create machines that could pass the famous Turing test. The criteria? The program, machine, robot, etc. convinces a human that it, the machine, is a human. There's been programs that can pass some aspects of the Turing test, like typing, speaking, video, chess, but most of these rely on the human being fooled by a machine behind a screen. What if a machine could completely pass the Turing test? Appear as human in speech, movement, and appearance. For now, this is still the realm of science fiction, and one of the most important works of science fiction to ever explore this concept is Philip K. Dick's 1968 Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Most people who know this novel know it as the inspiration behind the 1982 film Blade Runner. And while the original novel has many of the same characters and actions as its more famous film adaptation, a bounty hunter charged with tracking down and retiring escaped androids attempting to hide themselves in human society, the source material is more than worth reading. It explores how AI will influence the relationship with the organic, with religion, and with our impossibility of one day trusting our own senses, something we're already coming up against in video form. The novel also raises important questions of gender and sexuality in artificial intelligence. It's worth noting that the first chatbot was named after a girl. Siri and Alexa are expressed through female voices, as are many GPS navigation systems, and the sex and entertainment industry are more than eager to sell people on the possibility of gratification with something that appears to be a woman. All of these questions were explored more than half a century ago in a highly entertaining novel whose vision of the future only seems to be growing more and more inevitable with every passing year. Atlas of AI. While the most technical book on this list, I find myself returning to Kate Crawford's Atlas of AI every single time a tech CEO opens their mouth and tries to sell us on some AI-fueled utopian future. Named for the maps that AI-powered GPS has made obsolete, Atlas of AI dispels many of the myths surrounding artificial intelligence. Crawford's central thesis is that AI is a misnomer, that the tech behind AI is neither artificial nor intelligent. This runs in direct contrast to how CEOs pitch AI to the public. Another common misconception that Crawford challenges is the widespread ubiquitousness of AI as a buzzword. All of a sudden, it seems like every company on Earth is touting its own AI. But everything is not as it appears to be. Artificial intelligence is made up of human labor. Digital piece workers paid pennies on the dollar clicking on micro tasks so that data systems can seem more intelligent than they are. Years after this book came out, Danny Gonzalez did a wonderful video on tech products that shouldn't exist that reminded me of Chapter 2 of Atlas of AI.
They're an incredible new technology. They're called Amazon Fresh Stores, and they are a gigantic lie. You see, while Amazon was touting these stores as a cashierless solution that allowed them to use AI to cut out all of the on-location workers, it turns out what it really meant by AI was anonymous Indians. Amazon's Just Walk Out stores relied on 1,000 people in India watching, not AI. So it turns out that even though they started implementing this technology in stores in like 2016, as of 2023, Amazon still needed 1,000 people in India reviewing about 70% of all orders to make sure that it worked. In other words, it didn't work.
And Crawford's book is divided nicely into 6 chapters. So if there's one area of AI you want to learn more about right away, you can jump right to that chapter. So there's chapters on the human labor behind it, the environmental impact of it. This was the very first place I heard anyone talk about the environmental impact of AI, all that sort of stuff. You can dive right into it and demystify that part of AI right away before you even read it cover to cover. A couple other great books that you might consider looking at include The Alignment Problem by Brian Christian, which is all about how AI struggles to be aligned with the values of humanity, which seems to be something we should, think a lot about. Also, Algorithms of Oppression by Safiya Noble pointed out to me just how biased and prejudiced our algorithmic world is. Just a simple Google image search has so many biases and prejudices built into it that an entire AI generated model with very few checks and balances for how it learns is going to cause some major issues. And if you're looking for another great novel about AI, Speak by Louisa Hall is both historical fiction and science fiction, and does an incredible job of introducing a number of the topics that a lot of people have questions about with AI and really humanizing them and looking at some of their potential impacts on our species. So if you were to look at every book that I recommend in this video, you might notice an interesting theme. All of them were written before ChatGPT came out, before AI was a huge buzzword. And the reason for this is that I first started thinking about this in graduate school when I took a class on AI and literature. This class happened to be about 6 months before ChatGPT went public. In fact, I got to use a early beta version sort of thing of ChatGPT. We had this very limited trial where you could use it for like 15 minutes and play around with it and then talk about it in class. It's the only time I've actually ever used it. But it got me thinking about all of this stuff before the general public got concerned with it. And I find that incredibly valuable. And I don't say that to self-aggrandize. I say that more because when the news stories break out, when people make videos for clicks, when CEOs try and blow smoke in our face about what this stuff is going to do, I feel like I have a better understanding of it. And an understanding that I can trust a little bit more because the writers who are writing about this sort of stuff, as much as they realized they were writing about it, right, the more modern books in here, they were writing about it before there was big money to be made talking about AI. I mean, one of the reasons I'm making this video now is that it's a popular topic and it's one that I'm interested in just like everyone else. But I find people that were interested in it before all the profit was at stake, before there was so much venture capital being pumped into it, before writing a book about it really increased your chances of getting into the #1 spot on the New York Times bestseller list, that sort of stuff. I find the people who have been taking a long, hard look at this, who are prompted about it before the boom of the public, to be really, really fascinating and valuable insight. Certainly things have changed since then, but you'll also notice if you read these that a lot of things haven't changed. And I take a lot of solace in that, thinking about the scariness of AI and all the things it could upend, like the thing I'm doing right now. It's not quite as new and groundbreaking as people think it is. And if there's one book that I've read since that class that's come out more recently that I would recommend to everyone to read, that'd be Karen Howe's Empire of AI. Came out just a couple of months ago, but it's an incredible book, and I really like the approach it takes looking at these companies as their own empires, like the 20th century empires that colonized the world. I think that's a great book. And there's other great ones too. I'm no longer in a class about AI. It's not the only thing I read about anymore. But for a little while, a couple months, it was my main focus in life. And I wanted to share the books that I read there and some that I've stumbled upon on my own since with you. Hope you can find some interest in them. And if you are interested in combating the digital nature of the world and going down the historically proven path of analog note-taking, consider checking out Field Notes. They make incredible notebooks. There's a reason they're so ubiquitous with graduate students and creative types. They're incredibly portable because they're not that expensive and they come in 3-packs. There's not this pressure to only write perfection into them. You just fill them up with ideas. And if you are interested in getting some, you can check out the link in the description. There's a code as well that'll get you 10% off your first order. Really helps out the channel and hopefully helps you do a little bit more handwriting and get those great ideas buzzing around up in your head down on paper. So join the crazy, and it is a crazy community, the Field Notes community, but it's a lovely community. I invite you to it. Get some notebooks and start writing down your ideas. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the description below, and I'll see you next time. Happy reading.